For a lot of things, there's never going to be a perfect time. You're never going to get to that place where you could say, okay, now is the time to push the button. Now's the time to do it, right? I mean, there are things that you should plan for. Don't get me wrong. You definitely need to lay the groundwork before you do things, right? Count the cost. Count the cost. However, once it's time, once you know that you're going to do something, that you are going to go ahead and do something, right? You're going to go ahead and start a business. You're going to go ahead and start a YouTube channel, write a book, go for a run, start working out, start investing, whatever it is, right? Those types of things, you know, there's never going to be that perfect time. So like if you want to go start running, you're probably gonna have to start by walking. And, you know, there might not be a time when you don't find some excuse not to do it, right? So what you got to do is you got to say, okay, I'm just going to put the shoes on and go, right? I'm going to put the shoes on and go for a walk, because that's going to get, like, if you start that and you start walking, at some point after a few days of that, you're going to be like, I'm going to start jogging a little bit. This is what I do. If I've ever had to start getting back in shape, I'll walk a little bit, because in walking, then I start like jogging a little bit. I'll walk and jog, and then I might jog for a while. And then you know, I've gotten to the point where at some point in times, I've gotten to the point where I eventually was running, and I grew up, I did not identify as a runner or anything like that, but ended up, you know, for me, it was pretty good to get under 6 minutes for a mile, right? And I made it to that, and I thought, wow, I didn't even know I could do that. Now, some of you guys out there could probably run a 6 minute mile, no problem. I get it. That wasn't me. But it started by just walking. And if you just find excuses not to do things, which is easy to do, you'll never get started. And if you never get started, you'll never get to that point where you're like, man, I just achieved something that I never even thought possible. So this is something that I've noticed throughout life. I used to know a person who, it was always something, some excuse why not to start, right? And I even know a person in my life now, or people in my life now, who it's always an excuse not to start, not to do this. And, you know, I don't tell people what to do. Let's say investing, right? For example, investing has changed my life. No, I'm not rich or whatever. I like from investing and all this. I'm not saying that. But it definitely changes your perspective on things. And over time, over the course of time, it changes your net worth. I mean, it really does. But sometimes people will have the conversation about it with me, and I'm like, yeah, you know, it's probably good just to go ahead and start, right? Like, and you know, that way so you can get a baseline, not financial advice, but it's like, so you get a baseline on, you buy an asset or whatever, it either goes up or down, you kind of know about where you're at, and you can start just kind of feeling it out, because you're going to make mistakes. And it's better to go ahead and make those mistakes early so that you can recover from them, right? Because if you're like later on in life making these mistakes, it could be a really big deal. But if you're in like your 20s or whatever making the mistakes, it's not as big of a deal. So I've heard all kinds of excuses, right? Like, oh, well, I need to do this, I have to pay this, I have these bills, I have that, whatever. And then sometimes I'll say like, well, why don't you just start with $5 a week, right? What you're doing when you do that, it's not really substantial, but it's just a habit. It's like, if I have $5 a week overdrafting from my account, or not overdrafting, but like automatic draft from my account, hopefully it doesn't overdraft $5. If so, maybe not invest. I don't know. Yeah, but anyway, $5 coming out of the account every week automatically is not that much, but it's a habit. It's a habit that you start to build, and you start to look, then you can eventually look at that account and you're saying, hey, you know, I noticed that I don't even feel the $5 is gone, right? I didn't even notice that. So maybe I wouldn't feel it if it was $10. Well, now you doubled up. And then you can also get to the point then where it's like, man, I can see where this is stacking. It's not much though. I don't even notice the $10 is missing. Maybe $25 a week would be different. Well, now you're doing $100 a month, so $1,200 a year. It's actually something, you know, more substantial. And so on and so forth. But it all starts from that $5. But there's never a perfect time to start. You're always going to need your money for this, or need your money for that, or have bills to pay here, or have something to do there. It's always going to be that way. There's never going to be that perfect time to start. The main thing is that you just start. So the same thing goes for like a YouTube channel. I know most people I know that have said that they're going to start a YouTube channel, nobody's done it. And it's always something like I don't have a camera, or I don't have time, or you know, well, I don't have a computer or any of this stuff. But I can tell you that none of that really matters, because I started with a cheap old phone on my other YouTube channel. This isn't my only YouTube channel, so I started with a cheap old phone, and the first thing I did is I went out, I started driving, and I did some dash cam videos. Now, those weren't the greatest videos in the world, but I learned about how to upload. I learned about how to, you know, do titles, thumbnails, some of the background stuff, right? Some of the stuff that you would need to know later to do better videos. The only reason I knew that is because I did it. And so I made a lot of mistakes too, but I was able to get that stuff out of the way. And you make the mistakes early, you can recover from them. So same with the YouTube. If you're wanting to start a YouTube channel, one of the best things you can do is just like, you have to have a plan. You have to have you should have a groundwork. Like this channel here, we have a mission, okay? And it's kind of to provide good food for thought. It's to combat all the nonsense on the internet, right? In some form or fashion, and also have an outlet so that we can do this. We can have this dialogue. So there's a mission behind it, and it's thought out to some degree. But I've also made a lot of mistakes, and I've made a lot of other YouTube channels or videos on other channels and whatnot. And so I've gotten to this point, right, where I'm like, okay, this is something that I also want to do, so I'll do this. And then it's better just to go ahead and get in and click record and get it started. And if you don't like that, then you can move, you know, you don't have to upload it or whatever, but you can upload it and you can see what happens, and you can go from there. So yeah, there's never going to be a perfect time, you know, even having children, you know, and I have children, there's never going to be a perfect time to have children. Believe me, the world is always going to be falling apart. It's always going to be getting worse, whatever. There's wars, there's financial issues, whatever. A lot of that stuff is they're just keeping you in a fear state anyway, so that you can't grow, so that you can't expand, so that you'll choose not to do things that do fulfill you in life. And having children is one of those things. And if you're not ready, I'm not saying don't have children if you're not ready. You should even plan for it. I mean, even to some degree, have your finances ready, have your stuff. You know, there's a lot of things that you could do better. There's a lot of things I could have done better in my life. And I would gladly suggest people do that, obviously. But don't forfeit your right to have children just because the news is telling you the sky is falling. You get what I'm saying? There's never going to be a perfect time. If you're waiting for that perfect, where the fighting's not happening and the finances are great and the, you know, the economy's perfect and there's no violence outside, you're never going to get there. You're never going to get there. And so you're going to live an unfulfilled life in that sense if one of the things that you wanted to do was to have children. So I'm not telling anybody what to do. None of this is advice, by the way. None of the financial stuff is advice. You know, I'm not giving you advice. It's a food for thought, right? Something to think about. It's never going to be a perfect time. All right, I'm going to call it a day on this video here, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. I'm out.